I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Bold Moves podcast. In case you didn't know, that is what you're listening to right now. My name is Mandie, Brice, and I am the host. This is episode number 211, and today I am sharing my interview with Marine Sélénée. She is French and has moved to America, which is one of her bold moves, but she has quite a few others, just as is commonly the case for people who make bold moves. It's usually not just one. I really hope that you enjoy listening to my chat with her.
Right.
She is super interesting, and I think you'll learn about yourself and be inspired and hopefully change your life just a little bit.
In New York City, so
without further ado, here's my chat with Marine Sélénée.
Welcome to the show, Marine.
Thank you so much, Mandie, for having me. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. So, of course, you know that the show is called Bold Moves, and you wouldn't be sitting here chatting with me if you hadn't made some yourself. So why don't you tell me a little bit about you and your story, some of the big risks you've taken, and where that's taken you so far?
Okay, so where to start? So my name is Marine, and I'm in New York, working in New York as a family constellation therapist. And a few of my bold moves since maybe like 10 years ago, like 12 years ago. The first one was to move to America at the age of 23. I was still with my ex-husband, but a month after I broke up with him.
Oh, wow.
And I actually moved to California.
Okay.
For less than a year, but it was my healing place, I would say, actually, like just to finally discover my true self, understand my different behaviors, patterns, ideas, decisions. I really needed to start over again in a way after my divorce with my former husband. Then finally, when I felt ready, I moved back to Miami because this was actually the first place that I started my journey in America.
Okay.
And I stayed over like 4 years. And finally, out of nowhere, actually not out of nowhere, that's not true. I had a dream in 2013 guiding me that I had to move to New York.
Okay.
And when I woke up, I was like, New York? I don't know anyone in New York. I have no one in New York. What do you want me to do in New York? But then guess what? 6 months after, I moved to New York with 2 luggages, my moon boots, because I was so cold, like obviously spending 4 years in Miami with my flip-flops, half naked all the time. And so I ended up in a hostel in Upper West Side. Okay. It was snowing November 15, 2013. And I was like, what did you do? Like, what was that about, Marine? But you know what? After 5 years, because now it's been 5 years, I don't know how I did it actually, but I built my clientele. I have friends now. Like I know New York like my pocket. Like it's my city, It was not love at first sight because sometimes it can be a scary city.
Absolutely.
But you know what? I did it, like was just based on one of my dreams. Like you just have to do it. Yeah. And then New York helped me to also write and self-publish my book in English. Because obviously, as you can already say, I have an accent and I'm from France, Paris. I wrote my first book in English in 2015. Wow. It's about my own spiritual healing, personal growth journey, plus the family constellations method. I really wanted to talk about it like more in a simple way, like my own way, my own introduction, like letting you know that therapy can really like help you have a huge breakthrough in your life, understand yourself better. So yes, here are a few of my bold moves. Yeah.
That's amazing. So first of all, I guess, where in California did you spend your year of healing?
Hermosa Beach in Los Angeles.
Okay. That's a
Beach.
great place to heal.
That was amazing. Like really, like I was not expecting anything. Like I had the chance that a friend welcomed me in California, and it was in Hermosa Beach. Beautiful.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so then you had your dream and then decided to move to New York. I love that. And as Frank Sinatra says, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
That's for sure. Like really, I can say yes, he was right, he is right, and I'm sure he will still be right. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't imagine that being something that changes over time. I think you could say the same thing about the Bay Area as well, and that Los Angeles, I think the big cities around here. I'm not sure if Chicago, if it applies so much, but
I think it's coming actually.
Yeah, I think
Chicago
it's on the way.
is rebirthing, like it's coming back. Yeah,
absolutely.
Coming back.
Well, I absolutely love New York City, and it's been about 5 years since I've been there. And honestly, like every time my husband and I talk about potentially moving somewhere, we always say like, well, we love New York, but it's so cold. Because we're from the Chicago area where it's also cold, and it's just like we left for a reason.
Yeah, for sure, but I love LA. Like California, I think it's such a great place to be. Yeah, like really.
Well, it's super impressive that you have written a book in not your native language. You speak amazing English, obviously, but there's so many people who are native English speakers, myself included, that haven't written a book yet. Like I have it almost done, and so now this is lighting a little fire under my rear end. So kudos to you for that. That's super cool. Have you written more books or just the first one? Because I think you said my first book, so that implies that there are more.
I'm working on my second one, and meantime, I'm looking for an agent. Because as I told you, I self-published it, and I was really, really proud, of doing it on my own.
Yeah.
But I want to go bigger.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I need someone, on my side, like a PR, an agent, a publishing house. So but I'm working on my second one.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So if I remember correctly, because we have had every scheduling challenge we could possibly have, I think, to finally get us to talking. So this has been a long time in the making, but if I remember correctly, you found me by hearing August's interview, right? August McLaughlin?
So I actually did a reading with August in New York.
Okay.
And then, like I checked, like her Instagram, and I saw her post on your interview with her. So I listened to it. And then finally, yes, I did send you an email.
Okay, that's how we found it. Cool. Exactly. So I was wondering if you actually knew August, or if it was just that you were a listener of her show or something.
I had the pleasure to share the stage with her and her book, and also my book and 2 other authors.
Very cool. I love it. So that very cool small world connection.
I love it.
I haven't met her in person yet, but she and another guest that I had on recently that live in LA and are friends were planning on grabbing.
You have to meet. She's great. She's really, really great.
I'm excited. So you mentioned in the email, like when you first sent me the email, and then you just said it now, family constellation therapy.
Yes.
What in the world is that? Because I've never heard of it, and I was just like, I have no idea what she's talking about. And I think I wrote back to you, so are you wanting to teach me what that is, or do you want to podcast? I'm not really sure. But I would like to learn about it.
I can talk about it like you're cold, Mandie, for sure. But, so just to clear up the name, family constellations, there is nothing about astrology or the sky or the planets, like nothing like that.
That's so funny, because I was like, okay, this chick might be really weird. But I'm like, it sounds like an LA thing, and I don't know, I'm open-minded. Let's hear what she has to talk about.
Yeah, come on. I think right now we are at a high level, like with all of those new modalities, okay? But family constellations, actually the founder of that therapy, of that method, he's from Germany, and his name is Bert Hellinger. No, Bert Hellinger, and he's like, I guess 95 years old right now. So you see, not that fancy, not that like gimmick, but
probably not having crystals in his hands right now.
No, I don't think so. Maybe he does, but
Yeah,
I don't think so. Who knows, actually?
we don't want to assume.
Exactly. I won't assume. Family constellations, it's a method that help all of us because we all have a family, obviously, okay, to uncover and dissolve any blockages affecting our relationships, our career, our health, our finance, anything, okay,
Sure.
through your family history, your family heritage, because unconsciously we carry on the past stories, the past traumas, the past secrets, the past disease. And until any like events, occurrence, trauma has not been recognized and released, someone else will have to take care of it.
Yeah.
Still subconsciously, okay? It's not like consciously you're going to be like, oh yeah, sure, mom, do not worry, I'm going to take care of you. You had an abortion, I'm going to have one too. Do not worry, mom. No, not at all. It's just subconscious. Yeah. And now for the ones who are, I would say, more skeptical, you know?
Yeah.
Still, epigenetic is a name for the research, science research, that we can pass on through our cells, all of the traumas and emotions and behaviors.
Interesting.
So it's not only psychology anymore, it's also scientifically proven.
Interesting. So what would a session, let's say I wanted to hire you, how would it kind of work? Because it seems very different from traditional talk therapy, because I mean, yes, of course, if you had, potential issues with your parents or something, that would obviously come up, but this seems like it goes way deeper. So I'd love to know kind of a little bit more about the process, I guess.
Sure. So at first I will ask you, what do you want to work on? What's at that moment, okay, in your present moment, you are still struggling with, it's still bothering you, it's still annoying you, and you have done so many therapies already, so many things, but it's still there and you cannot find the root of it. Okay. So I will ask you a few questions. What do you want to work on? Did you do any therapies previously or not? Are you new to therapy modality? And then finally, I will start a bunch of questions in regard to your family systems. Are your parents still together? How many siblings? Any traumas? Like by trauma, I mean, it can also be a tiny one. Like when we hear trauma, we think right away, most of the time, sexual abuse, physical abuse, being a refugee, like, but
death
it can,
or something extreme. Yeah.
It's something extreme. However, how our brain, how our body perceives a trauma, it's whenever you are not able to understand the event, the situation.
Sure.
That's it. It's when you were not able to process it. So it can also be like, I don't know, at the age of 5 years old, your mother told you to not eat the cookie, but you took a cookie and then she slapped your hand and you were like, oh my God, I'm so offended, like, I don't understand, like whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, so parents, siblings, your grandparents, like any stories, maybe they were immigrants, or maybe they went bankruptcy, or maybe your grandmother also lost a child or had a miscarriage. I also ask your great grandparents. Normally when you know something about them, you know something, like you don't need, like to dive deeper, I'm like, do not worry, it will be more than enough already to work on your grandparents, uncles, aunts, so the siblings of your parents.
Right.
Then of course I ask any miscarriage, any abortion, because this is really, really important to understand that everyone belongs in the family system. Everyone has a place. Okay. Any murder, suicide, anything like that, Mandie. Okay. And then I will connect, so your story, your past story, and also your childhood, whatever happened to you until now, to the issue that you would like to work on.
Okay.
I will, like give you options here.
Mm-hmm.
to see where is actually the root of your problem. Okay?
Yeah.
How this happens, I'm going to show you. I hope it won't perturb like the sound, but then you will see right away. When I work with in person,
Mm-hmm.
I use footsteps.
Okay.
Okay?
See, are those little like foam feet?
Exactly. Because actually it's my feet, that help, to shape,
Trace.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And so I give a few footsteps that at first I will pick what they're going to represent.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a family member, it can be an emotion, it can be a situation, it can be anything. Okay.
Sure.
So I will give you a few without telling you who is who. Why? Because most of the time what happens is we are addicted to the story.
Mm-hmm.
We are so influenced by it. We're like, no, I am right. My mother, she was so selfish. So if I tell you dark green is your mother, you are going to place them on the floor. You are going to jump on it and be like, oh my God, this is my mother here. She is so selfish.
Yeah.
Okay, but here it's your mind. It's not your feelings. It's not your emotions. Okay.
Okay.
So at first it's a blind constellation. You place the footstep on the floor. How you are going to place the footsteps will give us information in regard to the different dynamics between you and the different situations or family members or whatever it is that we need to constellate. Okay. And my only question will be, how do you feel here? Because the thing is, you are going to feel things. And if you don't, because maybe right now you're afraid of feeling, your body is going to talk for you. Okay. And also the position of each footsteps. So then I can tell you the entanglement, the connection, and how we can heal the situation. Okay. And healing the situation happens through healing phrases, like really simple ones, saying it out loud, like, you are my daughter, I am your mother. Mm-hmm. I let you go. Like really simple one, but that will reframe your subconscious and then it will become conscious. And as you may already know, Mandie, we can only heal when it's conscious. Right. Because we are aware of it. Then, of course, it's a choice if you don't want to heal it, but it's in your hands. Sure. So here it is. And I also work in group. And when it's in group, well, I don't use footstep, I use people.
Okay. Get people moving, make it a little more
Exactly. It's people.
Cool. So I'm curious how it works, because it seems like there's a combination of, like you said, the epigenetics and then knowing the stories of your family. How does it work if, let's say, you don't know your biological family, if you're adopted?
Of course.
You would be carrying the genes of people and not know their stories, but then you maybe still be able to speak on, your adopted parents.
Of course,
aunts, grandparents. How does that work?
Of course. I had the chance to work with a few adoptive children, that now are adults, because I only work with adults. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, at first, there is always a recognition of the biological parents. Okay. Because this is thanks to them that your parents right now, your adoptive parents, were able to become parents. Okay. This is the order. This is a process. Okay. Sure. Then, of course, I always start with a meditation when I open, like the therapy. So I ask the biological parents to take their place and also the adoptive parents. Okay. Because it's still important, because no matter what, you can have the most wonderful and amazing adoptive parents. As an adoptive child, you will always feel that something is missing. Like, it may not be conscious, not all the time, not every day, but yeah, it's like a tree, when you just like cut, like the trunk, but the roots are still grounded, in the soil. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing, So it's really important. And then probably that person won't know anything about, his parents and his grandparents. However, your body is your memory. Okay. So whenever you will have trouble, whenever you will struggle with a situation or a person, what you can do without knowing the reality of it, the truth of it, is just say, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I just recognize it. I just give a place to it. It does not belong to me. I can move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay, great. So I'm curious, in all of this time like you spent in California healing, and obviously you are, introspective. I think you need to be able to empathize with your clients. In the soul searching and such you've done, I'm wondering if you figured out what your purpose is. If so, if you're open to sharing.
Family constellations.
That-
Because I was going to become a psychologist. I studied psychology in Paris, and then I moved to America after my studies.
Yeah.
Because something was missing actually in my practice. I couldn't find like a connection to it. And so I moved to Miami, then I moved to California. I started healing myself in California. Then I moved back to Miami, and I hit rock bottom in Miami. Like, I was depressed. I was not happy. I was not unhappy. I didn't know what I was. Okay.
Sure.
And lucky enough, I was introduced to family constellations. And this was a deep awakening.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like, here it is, this is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I think, what, like, I love that saying. It's like your pain becomes your purpose. And working with families, I love that.
Yeah.
I love, like, not repairing, because no one needs to be repaired, no one is broken, but I love bringing love back. Like, seeing that lightness again, like, yes, I am free. I can move on, I can just do it on my own terms. I love that. I love being a witness of that awakening. Definitely.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. So you've mentioned, a lot of different bold moves. You said you hit rock bottom in Miami. I'm wondering what the scariest moment you've ever experienced, or the scariest thing you've ever done.
In a positive way or in a negative way, Mandie?
Either way.
Either way, okay. So the scarier thing, but in a positive way, was moving to New York.
Okay.
I was scared to death.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, and actually it was my luck to not know what I was doing, because I think sometimes you just need to stop thinking and just doing it. Okay. I'm an action woman. I'm an action person. So this helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And then my scariest, I do not believe in any negative, like, teaching in life. I think we always learn, or we always win. But I think it was when I self-published my book, and I wrote about my sexual abuse that happened at the age of 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
And my parents didn't know about it.
Oh.
So it's by reading my book that my parents knew my secret, discovered.
Wow.
And I remember my mother called me, and she was like, well, I started reading your book.
Yeah.
And I knew, because it's at the beginning of my book, that I dropped the bomb. And that I dropped the truth. And my mother was like, it was, it was so raw, like, it was full of love. And she was like, if I knew, I would have done something. Like, I am your mother. And I'm like, Mom, you were just perfect. Like, do not worry about it. It's just my story. It's just my past. And believe me, I am so lucky to have you as my mother. So maybe it was also one of the scariest moments, like, just to speak my truth, like, and be seen, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I've interviewed over 100 people so far for this podcast, and you're the first person to ask if I meant in a positive way or a negative way. So that's such an interesting distinction. And I always follow up the question that I ask about the scariest thing is with, like, how you recommend pushing past fear. So of course, as a therapist, I'm sure you give advice all the time. And I don't know if your answer would be different depending on the circumstance of whether it's a scary, bold move like moving to New York, or a scary in a more negative and less exciting way of sharing a big truth with, the world as well as your family. I think sometimes family is scarier than the
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's part of you, you are your
Right.
family. So it's even more intimate, I would
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
I think then it will be with your kids, that same connection, like it's a piece of you. It's part of you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But to answer your question, actually, I think it will be the same answer. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
thinking about it. Like, we think way too much, actually. We
Yeah.
forget to breathe. We forget to feel. And my dream, I always trust my dreams, first of all. And I also always trust my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great, actually, also to be scared in your life. If you're not scared, that means you are not living to your highest potential, like just do it. Okay. Like just have fun, just enjoy it to the fullest. Maybe it's not going to work. And so what? You know what? At the end, we are all going to die. It's all the same end. Like there is no trick here. So just enjoy it, like do it, like learn, fall, like again, like, yeah, sure, do it.
I love that. And that's kind of the point of the podcast is,
Yeah.
to get people to take steps out of their comfort zones, as well as to hear the stories of people who have and realize that they haven't died yet. And they've done a lot of wild things.
Of course. We can make up so many stories, like just before acting. And then we act and we're like, oh, that's it? Okay.
Right.
That was not scary, actually. And you're like, yeah, sure. And here it is.
I love that. Okay. So that I think is great advice, to not overthink when you're, just going to push past the fear. I'm curious what other advice that you might have just in general, maybe lessons you've learned recently or something that you think our listeners or viewers would find valuable, anything that you want to impart on the audience. Here's your chance.
So I love the book, The Four Agreements. By
Okay.
Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's part actually of my list. But do not take anything personal.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, it's been like, I think 7 years, that I've read that book, and every day I can, like just be like, yes, that's right. Nothing is personal, like nothing, absolutely nothing. Like you are not the center of the world. You are not her or his problem.
Yeah.
And that sentence really deeply resonates with me. So nothing is personal. High five, Don Miguel Ruiz. Thank you so much. Then me, I think it's all about accepting everyone as he or she is,
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to change him or her
Right.
in regard to your own expectations.
Yeah.
Like this is really important for me to have that respect from my friends, from my family, from my lover. Like take it as I am, take me as I am. Like
Sure.
I think it's really, really important. Also in your family in general, everyone belongs. Everyone. And the more you're at peace, you're at ease with your family, the easier it is for you as an adult.
I love that.
It starts there.
Yeah.
And this is so important, to also have an inner dialogue with your inner child.
Okay.
Little girl or little boy. Yeah, this is right now my mission with all of my clients. Please create that inner dialogue, because it will create a huge, it will flow in your life. It will just flow. Like it will feel more peaceful. Yeah. A huge difference. Yeah, definitely.
So if somebody is listening to that part and is like, well, I have no idea where to start or how to do that, what is your advice for creating that dialogue with your inner child?
With meditation.
Okay.
On Insight Timer, I'm actually on Insight Timer, and I have a meditation with your inner child, but I'm not the only one doing it. Start meditating, like a guided meditation with your inner child.
Okay.
Honestly, I think this is the first step to take.
Okay.
Easy one. Yeah.
Very nice. So you were mentioning in your general advice that one of the books that you recommend is The Four Agreements, which is so interesting because you're not the first person to recommend it, and it's always sounded interesting to me, but you're literally the second person in 2 days. My guest from yesterday recommended it also. So I think it's time to read that for me because
for sure. Like, it's great. It's an amazing book. Yeah, it's my Bible in a way. Like, yeah, definitely.
I love that. So what other books do you have to recommend?
So it's The Man Who Wanted to Be Happy by Laurent Gounel. He is French, but it has been translated in English, so you can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
Then there is When Food is Love by Jeanine Roth.
Okay.
It's not only about food, it's about self-love.
Okay.
And I really, really love it. And my favorite author is Paulo Coelho.
Okay.
And my favorite book from him is The Zaire. It's about love. And I think it's the most beautiful love stories that you can read.
Oh, amazing. I've read The Alchemist, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And that was another book from the same guest yesterday, but I have not read The Zaire.
The Zaire. So yes, my list is 4 books, like The Man Who Wanted to Be Happy. It's about a spiritual journey. It's a real story. The 4 Agreements, it's more like applying, like on your day-to-day. The Zaire, it's about love. And When Food is Love, it's about self-love, like loving yourself, deeply loving yourself.
Beautiful. Those sound all amazing. Thank you for sharing those. And those will all be in the show notes too. So if anybody is looking to check them out, they can. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your book and what it's called? And I assume that's available on Amazon as well.
Yes, it is. So the name is A Movement. And of course, it's available on Amazon. So it's about family constellations, how it can help you to dive deeper in your family system, in your personal story. At the end of every chapter, I give an exercise and a few affirmations if you want to do it on your own. And it's also combined with my own personal story. Okay,
very cool. And we know there's a truth bomb right at the beginning, but I assume that doesn't spoil the book.
Not at all.
Fabulous. Well, I am curious. So you talked a little bit about the process of what it's like to work with you, but if somebody is listening and they want to find you to work with you, or they want to follow you on social media, or I know you said you had that guided meditation. I want to put all the links, of course, in the show notes, but if somebody's listening while they're running through their neighborhood or driving or something, if you want to say it so that people can hear it, where can we find you online?
You type Marine Sélénée, Selenee, and you will find me no matter what. That's for sure. I'm the only one. Like Marine Sélénée, that's it. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Insight Timer.
Okay. And is Insight Timer a meditation app, or what exactly is that?
It's a meditation app. It's like 12,000 meditations for free.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
It's the best app for me.
Okay.
Ever. Okay. But I really, really love it. And I'm actually going soon to launch my course. It will be a 15 minutes class on 10 days. And it will be about family constellations.
Perfect. Of course. Well, I'll definitely have to check out that app because I've been using Headspace and I've been liking it.
It's a great one too. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe when that subscription runs out, I can go to Insight Timer and then I won't have to. And I have your glowing recommendation and access to your meditation as well. So that would be fantastic. Well, great. I have one last question, and given, I guess, your background, I think this could be very interesting. It's my favorite question to ask. So if 8-year-old Marine had a crystal ball and could see where you are today and your journey to America, to LA, to New York, to Miami, now I sound like it's a Pitbull song. He always yells city names. But if you could see the future up to where you are now, and you know you're working on your second book and that you're up leveling and getting an agent and all of that exciting stuff, on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little Marine be to see you now?
11.
Love it.
11 for sure. She wouldn't have expected it, but she will be pretty excited.
It's interesting because a lot of guests share that there would be some shock, but
It was not my vision at 8 years old, but I really love it and I own it. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Perfect.
I'm so glad to hear it. Well, thank you so much for what you do in the world. I'm sure your clients are very blessed to have you in their lives. And thank you for being so flexible and finally being able to chat and make this happening. I really
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I hope you found Marine as fascinating as I did. I forgot to mention in the intro that you can win a copy of her book. So if you're interested in that or getting the links to everything that we mentioned, the books that she recommended, if you want to just buy her book, go to her website, her Instagram or anything, and maybe you are a little put off by the pronunciation of the French name or the spelling there, all of that's in the show notes, www.mandiem.com/episode 211. So 211, that is where you will find all of the things that I have mentioned so far. So make sure you go and check out those show notes. While I'm making requests, I would like you to share these episodes to help as many people as possible and inspire them to go after their dreams and make the big, bold moves that they have been imagining and maybe scared of for a while. I loved how Marine said, don't think, just do it. If you're not feeling fear, you're not really living. I think that's kind of the whole motivation behind the podcast. So getting that to more eyes and ears is super beneficial. I would love it if you shared it. I don't want you to miss anything, so make sure you're subscribed. You'll get an automatic download or a notification every time there is a new episode of Bold Moves. I'd love it if you did that. And while you're already in your favorite podcast app, you may as well leave a review if that's available so that those platforms also suggest this podcast to other people, which will again help that mission of getting it to as many people as possible and inspiring as many people as possible. Of course, as always, there will be a challenge this Friday from our lovely guest, so stay tuned for that. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.